back then. I was eating fairly well. Actually, I was a vegetarian then, which is very hard to do in the Marines. I was a vegetarian. I was eating brown rice, brown bread, all that kinds of stuff, organic stuff. They called me a hippie back then. But I was really mindful of what I ate. But my cholesterol was always about 215, 220. And I thought, oh, my mother's cholesterol is also about 215, 220. So I thought, oh, genetics, so that's the way it goes. But then after medical school, after becoming a naturopath and going around, I altered my diet. I realized that what I had been told in the past was a lie about grains being good for us. And I went on a very high-fat, high-protein diet, very high, to include about 150 eggs per month. This is what I'm eating now. For breakfast, I had 6 eggs. Tomorrow, I'll probably have 4 to 6 eggs. This is what I eat every single day. And I've been doing this for many, many years, probably about 7, 8 years. Okay? My cholesterol now, or tested last year, late last year, is 162. So what happened? Can anybody explain? Because no doctor can explain. I'm a doctor, I can't explain what happened either. My cholesterol was 215 to 220 when I was eating grains. I was having fruit juice. I was having pro-inflammatory food. When I stopped eating pro-inflammatory or making inflammation food and went on a very high fat, saturated fat, I mean, I love killing beef. Those animals are for my benefit. That may offend you, but they're for my benefit. And eggs. And I drink coconut oil, which is a pure saturated fat. My cholesterol went to 162. What happened? Oh, by the way, when I was in the Marines, my body fat composition was 14%. So again, we used to get well tested. My body fat composition now is 10%. What happened? What happened? See? Body fat went down, cholesterol went down. By the way, I'm 48 now. My weight has been the same for 31 years. When I was 17, I weighed 66 kilos. Today, I weigh 66 kilos. What happened? So all of these ideas that people are telling you, again, are nonsense. They are not true. I'm proof. I did an experiment on myself to see if those people were right. They're wrong. Why? I'm standing here. I feel very good. I actually have more energy now than I did when I was a young man. So simply put, we should eat what our genes say we should eat. And agriculture itself, by the way, that's a high number, 8,000 years. It's probably closer to 6,000 years we've been doing agriculture. That means we've been putting corn in the ground or wheat in the ground and growing something and staying. Okay? So that's a lot different from running through the jungle or the forest and finding some food. Completely different. So agriculture has about 6,000 to 8,000 year time frame which we as humans have been consuming. And to change a gene in us, so like if we want to swim like fish under the water, breathe the water, it's going to take us at least 100,000 years for a gene to change. If we've only been exposed to grains for 8,000, we still have about 90,000 more years before we can eat grains safely. Right? And this is not my opinion. This is the opinion of geneticists. So I don't know anything about genetic coding and such. So I listen to people who are experts. And they're all saying, or most of them are saying, that eating grains are not beneficial to our health. Okay? Those who are vegetarian, by the way, I'm not bashing vegetarianism. I used to be a vegetarian for about 10 years. All right? But if you're having vegetarianism as a health idea, like you think this will promote my health the best, you're probably mistaken. Now, if you're doing vegetarianism for conviction, you know, I don't want to kill an animal, that's your business, all right? I cannot say anything bad. Just like I'm Jewish, I don't eat pork, even though pork is good for you, all right? So, so I'm not talking about if you have religious or social conviction about something. If you're doing something for health reasons, then my job is to give you information, all right? And again, not one native group around the world is vegetarian. The healthiest group of people are not vegetarians. Again, the Ryukyu Islanders are not vegetarians. The oldest man, he happens to be a Japanese fellow, drinks milk every day. So the idea that milk is bad for you is also nonsense. So what should we eat? What did our forefathers eat? Proteins, fats, vegetables, and some fruit. Not corn unless you can find ancient corn. A little bit of potato on occasion. Nuts and seeds, and that's it. This is all they used to eat. And they were quite healthy and quite strong. Very, very strong, in fact. So what they found was that before the advent of agriculture, most people were 5 foot 9 inches tall. That's an imperial measurement. Okay? I don't know the metric equivalent. After the advent of agriculture, people decreased to 5 foot 3. So they lost 6 inches. It's about, what, 15 centimeters in height. Okay? So they found also the bone structure became weaker. The person became, bone structure became more brittle. And one of the arguments against saying back then, they weren't that healthy was because they didn't live very long. But back then they had a very dangerous environment. So if you compare apple to apple, actually they did live quite well. And if they survived out of childhood, that's where most of them died, they were actually quite strong and quite healthy. All right? One of the things I like to say, Dr. Diamond, UCL researcher, geneticist, he said that the advent of agriculture was the worst thing to happen to humankind, and we have not recovered since. So eating agriculture products has led to all kinds of problems. Okay, so what are we looking at? According to epigenetics, we're looking at favorable gene expression. We all have genes in us. We have good genes, we have bad genes. Some of us have more good genes than bad genes, and vice versa. Some of us have more bad genes than good genes. And we want to be able to turn on the good genes, keep them on, and turn off the bad genes, which we can do. Now, this diet will not, if you're born with only one arm, will not make you grow another arm, all right? But if you have mother or father have some disease pattern, like diabetes, it does not mean you will get diabetes. If you live the same way they do, you turn on the diabetes switch. See? Does this make sense to everybody? It's pretty simple. If your mother or father had heart disease, and you live the same way they do, or high stress, bad diet, blah, 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 you turn on this heart disease gene. Okay, so what do? I'm not saying don't live like your mother and father, but look at how they lived, or the possibility of changing something in your life that will be more positive. And first, again, is diet. What can we change? Diet. It's a little more difficult to change your job right away than it is to change your diet. Okay? Maybe you hate your job, causing lots of stress, but that may take a little more time. The diet can be changed almost immediately. Okay? So, you can only blame your parents for so many things. All right? You can't blame them for everything. All right. So, what is it, the problem nowadays with modern people? We consume too many carbohydrates. Carbohydrates should be a very limited intake in our body. In fact, we actually, quite truthfully, don't need any carbohydrate intake. It's protein and fats that we need. However, that's a bit extreme. So what I recommend is people do not exceed 100 to 150 grams of carbohydrates per day. Now, if you eat a bowl of pasta, you probably have about 200 grams of carbohydrates already. Okay, that's some noodles, right? But if you're eating vegetables and fruit, it's actually difficult to have that many carbohydrates because there's not a lot of calories or carbohydrates in fruits and vegetables, not a big amount. For example, an apple, a single apple is 12 grams of carbohydrates. So you eat an apple, you have 12 grams, but you have so much farther to go. Now, if you eat 50 apples, you've gone over this. So anyway, and this is a recommendation based upon Dr. Lutz, who wrote a wonderful book called Life Without Bread. And he did all kinds of studies and found people got tremendously better when they went on a high-fat, high-protein diet. This is not the Atkins diet, by the way. Dr. Atkins was advocating a high-fat diet, which is okay for a short time if you want to lose weight, lose fat. But in the long term, I don't think it's all that beneficial. All right. Everything else creates inflammation and turns on the bad gene switch.